Xiaoqi fell in love with the girl who saved him, and was determined to break off our engagement, defying the arrangement between our two families. I loved Xiaoqi with all my heart and soul, and I refused to let him go. In return, he stood outside the delivery room, refusing to sign the blood transfusion consent form, leaving me to bleed to death. When I awoke once more, Xiaoqi was kneeling at my feet, begging me to grant him his wish. I let out a derisive snort. Spare me the act. I never cared for you in the first place. Our engagement is off. His eyes widened in utter disbelief. In my past life, I bled out on the delivery table. Xiaoqi's icy voice still seemed to echo in my ears. It's just childbirth. Does she really need an epidural? What woman is so delicate? What's a little blood? It's not like you'll die from it. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know, a blood transfusion would cost a fortune. Just tough it out. It'll pass. I let out a cold, bitter laugh as my vision began to blur. Xiaoqi and I grew up together, and our parents have been close friends for many years. Before he met Lin Hanyan, he was incredibly thoughtful and attentive towards me. We used to talk about what our married life would be like, and we'd even blush while secretly discussing the names of our future children. But in the end, I was the fool. Ugh, that hurts. When I opened my eyes, the pain in my chest and body was gone. Warm sunlight streamed through the window, and the plants I kept were thriving in the light. What did you say? Came my father's furious voice from downstairs. I rushed downstairs and froze in place for a moment. This scene was from the very day Xiaoqi came to break off our engagement. At that time, I had not yet married Xiaoqi. Wan. Xiaoqi's eyes lit up when he saw me. Then he lowered his head as if burdened by guilt. I walked unhurriedly to the sofa and sat down with grace. A loud thud sounded beside me. I looked up to see Xiaoqi already kneeling on the floor, with both sets of stunned parents sitting nearby. Wan, I'm the one who's wronged you. I cannot honor our engagement. Just like in my past life, he was putting on the same performance, kneeling before me with that pitiful face, tears streaming down. That time, my heart aching, I helped him up, my vision blurred with tears. No, I don't want this. Xiaoqi, I love you. Don't you love me too? I'm sorry. Even though I have feelings for you, Hanyan saved my life. I can't betray her. I loved Xiaoqi with all my heart. But in the end, pressured by both families, I couldn't get him to call off the engagement. This time, if he wants to kneel, let him kneel. Even if he were to beg on his knees, it wouldn't begin to repay 1/10,000th of what he owes me. I watched with a cold, detached gaze, making not a single move. Shame was hidden in his eyes as he actually bent his proud, upright torso forward by half a measure. Wan, I know you're unwilling, but I'm begging you. Alright, please. Both sets of parents were watching. Although Xiaoqi's parents felt for their son, they couldn't very well say anything, given that he was the one who had wronged me. My own parents were so furious they were speechless. They let Xiaoqi keep kneeling, my father even letting out a contemptuous snort. I casually picked up the teacup and brought it to my lips for a small sip. Wan. Xiaoqi raised his voice. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his fists clench. Before I could speak, he finally unclenched his fists and sighed. Wan. That day I collapsed, lost consciousness, and my heart stopped. It was Hanyan who performed CPR on me. I owe her my life. The debt I owe her is one of saving my life. I can never repay it, except by offering myself to her. I interjected, cutting off his tearful words. Before I could say another word, a cry sounded from outside the door. Lin Hanyan, ignoring the security guard's attempts to stop her, burst into my home. With a heavy thud, she dropped to her knees before me, wiping her tears. I'm so sorry, Sister Lu. It's my fault for ruining your engagement. Punish me if you must, but please, don't take it out on Brother Xiao. Hanyan, get up. Don't do this. Xiaoqi's eyes were filled with pity, yet his anger was directed at me. Lu Wan, I've shown you more than enough respect. Don't push your luck, Brother Xiao. It's my fault. I was wrong. Please don't argue with Sister Lu. Just look at Hanyan. She knows how to behave. Now look at you. Xiaoqi, in a fit of rage, grew increasingly reckless with his words, to the point where even both sets of parents couldn't stop him. Our Xiao family will never welcome a woman who can't tell right from wrong and lacks basic decency through its doors. Xiaoqi, shut your mouth, Mr. Xiao snapped, furious. You see, Dad, I was right. Xiaoqi stood up, intending to help Lin Hanyan to her feet. Seeing the fear on her face, Xiaoqi's eyes reddened. He grabbed her and yanked her up like a madman. A virtuous woman brings prosperity to 3 generations, a wicked one ruins 3. If a woman with no sense of propriety like her marries into our Xiao family, our downfall is only a matter of time. Our family has struggled so hard to reach this standing. Was it all just to welcome such an unworthy woman? Shut up, just shut your mouth. Old Master Xiao roared, slapping Xiaoqi hard across the face. My parents were absolutely livid, their eyes wide with fury. Nothing is even settled yet, and you're already talking about the Xiao family's ruin, and you're trying to pin the blame on our Wanwan in advance. My father sneered coldly. If they actually got married and anything unfortunate happened to the Xiao family, they'd probably claim our Wanwan brought a curse upon their family for 3 generations. She might even be labeled a modern-day Yang Yuhuan, a siren who ruins nations, and carry that infamy for 1,000 years. We dare not agree to this marriage. In-laws, let's talk this through calmly. There's no need to go this far, I said with biting sarcasm. Indeed, that particular honor of infamy should be reserved for Miss Lin. I'm not saying this just to be sarcastic. In my past life, I watched her gloat right in front of me. Lu Wan, you're such a fool. What's the point of keeping a man when his heart isn't with you? A smart woman knows to get as much money out of him as she can. You don't love him. Love him? Of course I do. I love all rich men equally. You're shameless. You only love him for his money. I am shameless, but it's better than being pitiful. How much did my husband give you? Not much. Just a few tens of millions. A sharp, wrenching pain shot through my abdomen that day. I almost lost the baby. Weekend in the hospital. I told Xiaoqi what had happened. Instead of concern, he flew into a rage. Lu Wan, do you think everyone is as shallow and money-grubbing as you, willing to destroy someone's marriage for your own gain? He turned and left without another word. All I could do was let out a bitter laugh. Materialistic, what a joke. Xiaoqi and I were a perfect match, both coming from families with vast fortunes. If I hadn't married him and let him squander my entire inheritance, how could I possibly be penniless and living at his mercy? Now I understand. Only a woman like that is worthy of Xiaoqi. One is greedy for money, the other is treacherous. They're a match made in heaven. I let out a derisive snort, looking straight at Xiaoqi. Save your breath. I never liked you in the first place. Our engagement is off. What? Xiaoqi was stunned for a moment, his eyes widening in disbelief. Lu Wan, there's no need to provoke me just to vent your anger. I admit my words were a bit harsh. See, some people just have no self-respect. He wants you to let go, yet he's afraid you'll stop caring for him. I stood up and looked at him coldly. Xiaoqi, I've always seen you as an elder brother. I cherished a brother's care. But I forgot to tell you, a brother can only ever be a brother, and now, you're not even worthy of that title. That's a lie. We were just talking earlier. Brother Xiao. Please don't be angry. Lin Hanyan's timely interruption finally made Xiaoqi realize his own emotional state. His gaze faltered for a moment, and his open mouth slowly closed. Show our guest out. In less than a day, the news of Xiaoqi calling off our engagement was splashed across the headlines, sparking a flurry of public speculation. Some said a childhood bond of over 20 years couldn't compete with an outsider, while others claimed a life-saving debt outweighed all else, but most were just there to watch me become a laughingstock. I don't care. According to the timeline from my past life, a class reunion should be happening any minute now. 5. Just as I expected, the most popular girl in class called me. Lu Wan, we're having a class reunion tomorrow. Are you coming? She suddenly laughed. Oh, I forgot. Xiaoqi just broke off the engagement with you. You probably don't have the face to show up. I'll just decline for you. Save you the embarrassment in front of our old classmates. I remember her. She was the most attractive girl in our university class. Back in university, she knew full well that Xiaoqi and I were engaged, yet she still tried to sabotage our relationship, hoping to get him for herself. Xiaoqi didn't respond, humiliated by the defeat. She held a grudge against me from then on. Now, faced with a perfect opportunity to humiliate me, I doubt she'll let it pass. I'll go. The moment I spoke, there was a pause on the other end. What? You're coming? Of course I'm going. A faint smile touched my lips. I wouldn't miss him at this gathering for the world. 6. The class reunion was scheduled for the afternoon. I arrived at the designated restaurant as promised. Even from outside the door, I could hear the class beauty's excited voice. I always said that petty, vindictive Lu Wan was never good enough for you. Serves him right that you called off the engagement. A chorus of voices chimed in. Our President Xiao gave up a long-term relationship for the sake of his savior. That's the kind of gratitude we should all aspire to. President Xiao, a toast to you. I listened to the grating noise and couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Typical President Xiao. Even an act of betrayal gets spun as a noble, if reluctant, gesture of repaying a debt. And I'm the one who ended up getting what I deserved. You people are shameless. A man's voice rang out. The voice was all too familiar. It was Shen Qiu. I strode in. Sorry I'm late. I hope you haven't been waiting long. My custom-made, figure-flattering gown shimmered under the lights, casting a radiant glow on my face. I looked anything but the picture of a woman left heartbroken after being jilted by the man she loved. The crowd was taken aback. With several men unable to tear their eyes away from me, my gaze swept past Lin Hanyan, who was nestled in Xiaoqi's arms, and over the faces in the crowd. The man who had been raising his glass to toast Xiaoqi slowly lowered it, unable to meet my eyes. Lu Wan, a flicker of excitement crossed Xinqiu's face. I gave a nod. Xiaoqi frowned, stood up, and pulled Lin Hanyan closer. Lu Wan, our engagement is off. Don't you dare set your sights on Hanyan, I smiled mockingly. You're overthinking it, Mr. Xiao. My interests lie elsewhere. Xiaoqi was left speechless, and his body stiffened upon hearing Mr. Xiao. Xinqiu let out a snort of laughter, instantly making the atmosphere awkward. I walked slowly to the empty seat between Xiaoqi and Xinqiu. I figured this was the spot the class beauty had deliberately saved for me, just to watch me make a fool of myself. I sat down without a second thought, and in that instant, a soft, whimpering sound reached my ears. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I've made brother Xiao and sister Lu argue again. I shouldn't have come. I'll go, Lin Hanyan said through her tears, already turning to leave. Xiaoqi grabbed her hand. Hanyan, don't go. This isn't your fault. If anyone should leave, it's a certain someone. He shot a meaningful glance in my direction, but I paid him no mind and continued chatting animatedly with Xinqiu. You've changed quite a bit in 6 months. I remember you used to be quite shy. Xinqiu scratched his head, his face flushing. I guess so. I remember it all too clearly. In my past life, it was this same innocent face that died in the emergency room. I held his body, my voice trembling. Xinqiu, don't fall asleep. Hold on a little longer. Wan, I'm sorry. I couldn't save you, and I couldn't save myself either. Wan, I love you. His hand went limp. The heart monitor let out a piercing, flatline screech as the once jumping line went completely straight. As I looked at his face, it merged with the image of him from my past life, and my vision gradually blurred with tears. In this life, I will absolutely not let you repeat the same mistakes. 7. Lu Wan. A furious roar made my eardrums ache and caused the tears welling in my eyes to recede slightly. Mr. Xiao, what's your problem now? Lu Wan, this is a class reunion. I don't want to argue with you, and you shouldn't make things difficult for others. I hope you know your place and watch your words and actions, the class beauty sneered. Exactly, some people have already been left behind, they should know their place, the sidekick chimed in. Left behind, this is called survival of the fittest. A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. I held back Xinqiu's simmering anger, my gaze sweeping over those despicable faces. In my past life, when Xiaoqi failed to break off our engagement, every last one of them was full of flattery and fawning. Now, wearing the very same skin, they could be so utterly different. Even though Xiaoqi and I came from families of equal standing, they knew that siding with me meant making an enemy of him. Xiaoqi is the heir to the Xiao family, while I was always destined to be married off. In my past life, even my parents and I fell into this same trap, naively handing over our family business to my husband to manage, believing that what was his would naturally be mine. Little did I know, that was the very beginning of my tragedy. He's been using my resources to support Lin Hanyan on the side, giving me a measly 3,000 a month for living expenses while lavishing tens of millions on his little mistress. Propping my chin on one hand, I said in a flat tone, Mr. Xiao, looking at it now, who's really making things difficult for whom? For a moment, you could have heard a pin drop. I was just reminding you. I was afraid you'd give Hanyan a hard time. I hadn't even started giving him a hard time, and he was already jumping to conclusions. If I don't give him a taste of his own medicine, won't I have just sat through all that scolding for nothing, and let him think I'm a pushover? How could I? How could I possibly make things difficult for Mr. Zhao's savior? Oh, speaking of saviors, that reminds me of a story. I let out a short, derisive laugh. Once upon a time, a poor scholar saved a fox spirit. To repay him, the spirit took human form and insisted on marrying him. Everyone stared at me with puzzled eyes. Xiaoqi seemed to know what I was about to say, his face growing increasingly livid. Don't you all think our President Xiao looks just like a male fox spirit trying to repay a debt of gratitude? Ha 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 ha. Xinqiu burst out laughing directly, while the others, seeing Xiaoqi's livid face, struggled to hold back their laughter. Lu Wan, he clenched his fists. You're saying all this to humiliate me, just to make me follow the example of that poor scholarly Iran, hinting that I should keep my distance from Hanyan. You really won't give up, will you? I never said that. There are countless stories with similar themes. How could you possibly know which vixen I was referring to? Everyone praises President Xiao for his gratitude and sense of reciprocity. I was merely using the fable of the fox's gratitude to compliment your noble character. What's wrong with that? You, oh my. It's getting late. I should be going. I stood up, meeting Shinshio's reluctant gaze once more. I handed him a business card. I remember you were excellent in the sciences. I happen to have a project I'd like to collaborate on with you. The annual salary is 500,000, and you'll share in the profits from any research results. If you're interested, give me a call. Shinshio took the card in a daze, but a moment later, his eyes were alight with excitement. Ignoring the envious looks from the crowd, I turned and walked away. 8. In my past life, after I married Xiaoqi, my parents entrusted the entire Lu family fortune to his management. I also poured all my resources into supporting Xiaoqi, introducing my entire network of contacts to him. Shinshio was one of them. The anti-aging beauty products he developed had remarkable efficacy, propelling the Xiao family into the ranks of the ultra-wealthy. Everyone called me his virtuous helpmate, but I knew I was no mere trophy wife. I had the capability, the resources, and the connections. The only reason I willingly played a supporting role was because I loved him. It's laughable. Today, Xiaoqi is so desperate to break off our engagement that he's already painting me as a future wife who would bring ruin upon his household. How utterly ridiculous. Looking at it now, love isn't worth a mention. Rather than exhausting myself to love another, it's far better to use my resources to love myself. That very day, after I returned, Shinshio called me. He was more than willing to work with me. I brought him to meet Dr. Li. Dr. Li has had a long-standing partnership with my family, and we have provided him with substantial financial support. In my past life, he only agreed to cooperate with the Xiao family as a favor to me. Miss Lu, you've arrived. Dr. Li, this is my good friend Shinshio. Don't let his good looks fool you. He's a genuine science whiz. Oh, really? Shinshio's ears turned red without him realizing it. Hello, Dr. Li. I'd like him to join your RD team. I was wondering if you'd be willing. Dr. Li, you flatter me, Miss Lu. My research is funded by the Lu family, so of course I'll agree. You really shouldn't have gone to the trouble of coming all this way yourself. Next time, a simple phone call would suffice. Shinshio hadn't expected it to go so smoothly. He stared at me, dazed. I really can. Trust me, you absolutely can. His eyes lit up like stars. Yes, I'll give it my all. I've heard those words before, in my past life, but back then, his eyes were filled with nothing but heartache. A stark contrast to what I see in them today. How have you been? During that period, the Xiao family was on the brink of bankruptcy after several failed investments. Xiaoqi was always in a rage and often took his frustrations out on me. When he saw the scars on my hands, he blurted out in a fit of anger, Lu Wan, leave him. There's someone out there who will cherish and love you more than he ever could. I shook my head. Shinshio, don't ever say that again. How long are you going to keep deluding yourself? Don't be afraid, I'll take you. I'm pregnant. He stood there, stunned. I could see the tears welling in his eyes. After a long pause, he finally spoke. What can I do for you? I have a research and development team here. 9. That evening, Xiaoqi called me. The line had barely connected before an enraged roar came through. Lu Wan, just what the hell are you trying to do? President Xiao has been saying some very strange things lately. I'm finding it harder and harder to understand him. Don't you dare play dumb with me. You humiliated me in front of everyone today. And then I what? Still hanging around Shinshio. What are you trying to pull? Do I need to report my every move to you, Mr. Xiao? Lu Wan, came a furious roar from the other end, followed by the hushed, placating voices of Mr. and Mrs. Xiao in the background. It's obvious to anyone with eyes that Shinshio is into you. Are you really that clueless? So what? Have you no shame? Do you even know? I cut him off directly. Mr. Xiao, our engagement is off. Who I see and what I do is none of your business. How on earth does that have anything to do with shame? You, or is President Xiao the type who wants to have his cake and eat it too? Keeping a foot in both camps. Don't flatter yourself. I only have feelings for Han Yan. Hearing those words, I was reminded of my past life. When he got drunk at a bar and said something utterly chilling to his friends. If you don't love Lu Wan, why did you marry her? Who said I wanted to marry her? She's the one who's been clinging to me, desperate to get hitched. She's like a piece of sticky plaster I can't peel off. Do you still have feelings for Lin Hanyan in your heart? Of course I do. Hanyan is the only one in my heart. I stopped caring for Lu Wan ages ago. She's not as understanding, considerate, or gentle as Hanyan. If it weren't for her family's wealth, Why on earth would I have married her? At that moment, my heart sank into the depths of despair, yet a foolish part of me still clung to the hope that time might make him change his mind. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. So, what exactly did you call me for? There was a brief silence on the other end. I'm just warning you, stop doing things to deliberately get my attention. I am not going to marry you. Well, thank you, Mr. Shao, for your great mercy in not marrying me. With that, I hung up the phone. 10. Gazing at the moonlight, a sudden pang of hunger sent me out in search of food. The nights in a big city are always a blaze of neon lights and revelry. Shops clamored for customers with shouts and blaring loudspeakers. Yet none could drown out the shrill, piercing horn blaring in the distance. I looked up to see a luxury car come to a stop about 50 meters ahead of me, a man and a woman inside locked in a passionate embrace. My eyes widened in shock. It was Lin Hanyan, but the man in the car wasn't Xiaoqi. I frowned. Was she stringing Xiaoqi along while cozying up to some other tycoon? Lin Hanyan got out of the car, watched the luxury vehicle drive away, then turned and entered a bar. I followed her in. When I saw her again, she already had a man on each arm. Come on, drink up. She picked up the wine glass and poured the red wine directly into a handsome guy's mouth. The wine trickled down the corner of his lips, soaking his pristine white shirt. I swallowed hard. Seize the day when life is good, handsome. I'm booking you again tonight. To my surprise, another handsome young man protested. Sis, you haven't picked me for days. Don't worry. There's enough for everyone. I never would have imagined that Lin Hanyan was secretly keeping young men, funded by the money she got from her wealthy sugar daddies. Yet, seeing her like this, I couldn't help but smile. She was laughing heartily, but in the midst of her joy, her eyes accidentally met mine. In an instant, the gaze in her eyes shifted from one of a superior scrutiny to the guilt of a thief. What are you doing here? She asked, stepping forward with her fists clenched. I was about to ask you the same thing. Why are you here? She bit her lip hard. Let me tell you, don't even think about reporting this to Xiaoqi. The owner here is a close friend of mine and won't give you a shred of evidence. In the end, it'll just be your word against mine, a baseless accusation. Brother Xiao will only despise you more for it. What does your business have to do with me? To be honest, I'm actually quite impressed with your time management skills. I offered a faint, knowing smile and turned to leave. Her utterly bewildered gaze following me. 11. The next day, my phone rang. Wan, could you come to the Xiao family home? There's something I'd like to say to you. In my past life, Mrs. Xiao was decent enough to me. She wasn't exactly warm and attentive, but she never overstepped her bounds either. We got along well enough. After all, they were my parents' friends. Even though the two families had a falling out over the marriage, we didn't need to make things too awkward in public. When I arrived at the Xiao residence, only Mrs. Xiao was home. She greeted me with a warm smile and ushered me to the dining table. I made all your favorites. Go on, have a taste. I took a bite and nodded. It tastes just like I remember. Thank you. I remember you loved this as a child. You were always begging me to make it for you. Yeah, that was all a long time ago. Back in my childhood. Yes, it's all in the past. Some things are best left there. I set down my chopsticks. Please. Feel free to speak plainly, Mrs. Xiao didn't stand on ceremony either. Alright, Wan, I'll get straight to the point. Regarding the incident at the class reunion, it's true that Chier was out of line. His father and I have already reprimanded him. You should also let the matter rest. After all, maintaining harmony and faith between our two families is of utmost importance. Let the matter rest. I heard from Chier and Hanyan about how you gave him a hard time at the reunion. For someone of your upbringing, how could you say such inappropriate things to his face and humiliate him? I've advised him on this matter as well. Chier is magnanimous and doesn't wish to dwell on it. But as an elder, I must speak up for my son. Your actions have truly damaged the dignity of both our families. I let out a cold laugh. So you've come to call me to account. To be frank, even if Chier handled things poorly, as a girl, you should be considerate of a man's perspective. That's how you'll be able to better respect your in-laws and serve your husband's family after marriage. Stop. Please don't say another word. If you continue, I'm afraid I'll be tempted to say something unpleasant, which would only further damage the dignity of both our families. Madame Xiao, provoked by my retort, changed her expression. Her previously amiable smile vanished instantly. What I'm telling you is for your own good. With such a stubborn, argumentative temperament. No wonder Chier didn't choose you. Tell me, what respectable, well-to-do family would have you? I didn't want to say this, but since we've come this far, I'll be blunt. A young woman's greatest virtue is self-restraint. I paused, slightly taken aback. Self-restraint, I see. Lin Hanyan must have gone home and said something to Lady Xiao. I scoffed, watching Lady Zhao's face grow increasingly sour. Self-restraint. I think someone else is the one who needs to exercise it. And do you usually enjoy putting yourself in such a lowly position, letting others decide if they want you or not? Or do you genuinely see yourself as an object to be picked over? What did you say? I was trying to spare you some dignity earlier, but it seems you have no use for it. In that case, I'll speak plainly. I, Lu Wan, come from a good family and possess both talent and beauty. What makes you think Xiao Qi, who shares my social standing, gets to pick and choose? While I'm only fit to be chosen by others, you are the one who stripped yourself of the most fundamental human rights, willingly reducing yourself to a slave. But don't assume all women are like you, content to be so lowly, to be picked over and trained like livestock. You, Madame Xiao gasped, repeatedly clutching her chest. My gaze was icy. As for Xiao Qi, I never thought much of him. In my eyes, he was filtered out long ago. That's just sour grapes. As for the class reunion, I suggest you look into who was the first to make a scene, demanding I not make things difficult for Lin Hanyan. Then, find out who inexplicably insulted me, and who tacitly allowed others to verbally abuse me. Mrs. Xiao sneered, I don't care who's right or wrong between you. Today, you burned all bridges. The Xiao family severs all ties with your Lu family. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. My thoughts exactly. Let me tell you, our Xiao family just invested in a hot stock. Its market value will skyrocket in no time. When that happens, your Lu family won't even be worthy of polishing our shoes. Investment. I thought of something and quietly curved my lips into a smile. Mrs. Xiao shot me a haughty glare. As for Xiao Qi, don't you dare try to seduce him with the past. Hanyan is already pregnant. I suggest you stay away from him, or you'll regret it. Lin Hanyan is pregnant. The smile on my lips grew even wider. To be honest, I feel rather sorry for you. Sorry for me. You asked me to come here on Uncle Xiao and Xiao Qi's behalf, didn't you? What is it? I let out a derisive chuckle. Isn't it strange? They know full well this is a thankless task that'll make them enemies, yet they won't dirty their own hands. Instead, they send you to be the bad guy. You, how dare you? With that, I turned and left without a backward glance. Later, I overheard the housekeeper gossiping. Not long after I left, Mrs. Xiao called Mr. Xiao, and a fierce argument erupted in the Xiao household that night. 12. Lu Wan. What's the big secret? Why did you ask me to meet you like this? Lin Hanyan arrived at the cafe, a designer handbag dangling from her arm. That bag must have cost a fortune. Xiao Qi certainly doesn't hold back. He just buys whatever he wants. But looking at that bag, I only felt happier. Lin Hanyan noticed my gaze and said with a smug tone, this bag was bought for me by Brother Xiao. It cost 3 million. You know, he certainly seems devoted to you. Of course he is. I'm already carrying Brother Zhao's child. The Xiao family said that once the pregnancy is stable in 3 months, Brother Xiao will marry me. You simply must come to our wedding. Now, don't be too upset. Even though Brother Xiao and I are having a child and getting married, that child you're carrying, it's not Xiao Qi's, is it? At those words, the triumphant look on Lin Hanyan's face vanished, her pupils contracting sharply. What are you saying? This child? It's definitely Brother Zhao's. You're just jealous. Ah. I sighed with feigned regret. I'd advise you to get a paternity test sooner rather than later. Otherwise, you and the child will be left to shoulder his debts. What do you mean by that? You mean you haven't heard about the Xiao family's investment? Of course I know. The stock they picked is a complete dud. It'll crash and burn within a month. With the memories of my past life, I knew exactly which stocks would skyrocket or plummet in the coming months. Oh, give me a break. You can see the future now. I think you're just bitter about not getting Brother Xiao, so you're trying to sabotage the Xiao family. Listen, I'm telling you. Just then, my phone rang. Guiltily glancing at Lin Hanyan, I hurried off towards the restroom. That's right. You have to buy these stocks I mentioned. Go all in. I deliberately raised my voice. As the time to return drew near, the slight hesitation on Lin Hanyan's face gave way to growing confidence. You must convince him not to invest. Don't worry, I'll do my best to persuade Brother Xiao. She left with a smile, while a smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. Lin Hanyan is undoubtedly scheming to take the position of Mrs. Xiao, to completely crush me underfoot. She will definitely tell Xiao Qi about these stocks. Given that I've fallen out with the Xiao family, they will surely suspect my motives. On top of Xiao Qi's foolishness, he was swindled out of tens of millions by Lin Hanyan in our past life. The more I tell them not to buy a stock, the more determined they'll be to buy it. 13. Just as I predicted, When the Xiao family saw me buying those stocks in secret, they followed suit and purchased large quantities of the very stocks I mentioned. Within a month, they made a hefty profit. I saw things were about to turn and pulled out in time, while they, brimming with confidence, threw most of their money in. The stock kept falling, yet they stubbornly doubled down, refusing to believe the trend. Lin Hanyan watched anxiously and called me several times. I didn't answer. I have some great news today. Shinxiu has successfully developed a new anti-aging beauty technology, several months ahead of my expectations. Shinxiu, you're amazing. Shinxiu sat beside me, head slightly bowed, and said in an extremely gentle voice, "Thank you, President Liu, for giving me this opportunity. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the chance to participate in the RD. Oh my god, such a humble and adorable sweetheart. I just want to give him a big hug." My eyes were practically glued to it, but I managed to tear my greedy gaze away. "Without you, the Liu family would never have gotten their hands on this precious technology. From now on, we split the profits 50-50. No." He jerked his head up, his face flushing when he met my eyes. "I'll only take 30%, you keep the 70, he stammered through his words, his hands nervously fidgeting with his clothes. I froze, the words echoing in my mind. "I'll take just 3, you keep the 7. In my past life, he said the same thing to me, only back then, the Xiao family was the one to benefit. He poured his heart and soul into it for my sake and the Xiao family, yet in the end, Xiaoqi stole the fruits of his labor, taking advantage of the fact that I was the one who introduced him, and without a signed contract, he not only kicked Shinxiu out but also refused to pay him a single cent. Over this, Xiaoqi and I had a huge fight. Don't think I don't know Shinxiu has feelings for you. The only reason he came here was to get more chances to see you." "Xiaoqi, what are you talking about? If there was anything between us, why on earth would I have married you? How am I supposed to know what you two are secretly getting up to behind my back? You're accusing me. What about you and Lin Hanyan? Don't think I don't know she's carrying your child. So what if she is? Let me make this clear. Your child will never inherit the Xiao family fortune. Only Hanyan's child is worthy." Heartbroken, I left home in the dead of night and wandered aimlessly around the park. That's when I found Shinxiu collapsed in the grass, his body covered in blood. I learned from Shinxiu that it was Xiaoqi who had him beaten to this state, that it was Xiaoqi who wanted him silenced for good. It's truly a case of power being mightier than the law, allowing one to commit atrocities with impunity. My heart has turned utterly cold. I rushed him to the emergency room, only to watch him die in my arms in the end. I wept my heart out. The grief so overwhelming it triggered premature labor pains, premature birth, massive hemorrhage. I heard Xiaoqi's curses outside the delivery room. And then, I passed away filled with hatred. "Wan, why are you crying?" Shinxiu's anxious call snapped me out of my thoughts. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's President Liu. It's fine, you can call me that from now on." He looked up sharply, his beautiful eyes wide with shock. Slowly, his eyes welled up with tears and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. 14. "Are you ready?" Shinxiu was puzzled. "I'll take you to see a good show," I said with a smile, tugging at his sleeve. After all, the victim from the past life should witness the perpetrator's miserable fate firsthand. It's a form of vengeance for the one who was lost. The wedding was bustling with guests coming and going. The Xiao family has lost most of their investments, so the wedding wasn't as lavish as I had imagined. Besides, given how snobbish the Xiao family is, how much importance could they possibly place on someone like Lin Hanyan, who has neither power nor influence? Xiaoqi's face showed a trace of weariness. Yet he still managed to exchange pleasantries with the guests. Suddenly, his gaze turned toward me. I noticed the light in his eyes flicker for just a moment before fading, and slowly, he came to my side. Shinxiu tensely shielded me behind him, his gaze wary as he stared down Xiaoqi. Looking at Shinxiu's furious face, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of emotion. This shy, timid boy would always find the courage for my sake. His eyes turning fierce. "Wan, you came." Xiaoqi's voice was weary, and a few strands of his hair had turned white. "Mr. Xiao, I don't think we should be on such familiar terms. I'm sorry." He lowered his gaze. "It was my fault. I failed you. Today is your wedding day, Mr. Xiao. What's the point of saying these things now?" He struggled to find the words, paused, and then looked at me. "I never imagined Hanyan was that kind of person." What kind of person? Ever since she found out the Xiao family's investments were losing money, she's been arguing with me every single day. I replied calmly, "That's just how marriage is. Arguments are perfectly normal." "No, she gave me the feeling that all she cared about was money." I sneered inwardly. "No need to just feel it. that's exactly what it is. So, Mr. Xiao, are you saying you regret it now? He looked at me with earnest eyes. Wan, I was deceived by her innocent appearance. I had no idea she had such ulterior motives. Can we start over? She's pregnant. I said flatly, I don't like dirty cucumbers that others have used. Xiaoqi's eyes were filled with sorrow, his lips trembling uncontrollably, yet, I noticed Shinqiu's eyes light up beside him. Go on, your wedding is about to start. We've already given our gift money. Don't keep us from the feast. Shinqiu pulled me away directly. As I settled into the front row seat, he slowly leaned in close beside me. His head bowed and cheeks flushed. I'm pure. I'm not a dirty cucumber. My eyes widened as I noticed Shinqiu's reddened ears. Suddenly, I felt a mischievous urge. I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Are you offering to share my bed?" Ahem. His entire face flushed a deep crimson. This prompted the elderly lady nearby to speak up. "Oh dear, young man, are you running a fever? I have some medicine here. Would you like some?" No, that's quite alright. 15. Xiaoqi stood on the stage, impeccably dressed. His gaze fixed intently on me, yet, I paid him no mind, completely absorbed in amusing my younger brother beside me. Welcome, everyone, to the wedding of Mr. Xiao and Mrs. Lin. Let's give a warm round of applause for the bride's entrance. As the lights came up, all eyes turned toward the main entrance. After the door swung fully open, a heavy silence fell first, quickly followed by a swell of murmurs and whispers. Where's the bride? Did she not come, or was she not even told? I think the bride forgot she's getting married today. Mrs. Xiao frantically ordered the people nearby. Go find her. Quickly, Xiaoqi's face turned ashen, his hand gripping the corner of his jacket so tightly his knuckles were white. Soon after, someone rushed in and announced, "Madam, Mr. Xiao." Miss Lin left a letter. Mrs. Xiao tore open the envelope, took one look, and promptly fainted. "Mom," Xiaoqi cried, rushing to her side. A curious auntie nearby picked up the paper and read it aloud. "I'm done with this. You can marry this pauper yourself." Instantly, the room erupted in shock and a chorus of murmurs. "Oh my." With a startled cry, the woman stood up. "Isn't this a paternity test report? Exclusion of paternity. What does that mean?" Once again, the room erupted in an uproar. "It means the child isn't his. Mr. Zhao's been cheated on." Good heavens, what a bombshell. Mr. Xiao snatched the report with trembling hands, his eyes instantly welling up. Lin Hanyan. He roared in utter despair, just as old Mr. Xiao collapsed to the floor. "Quick, an ambulance, call an ambulance." Chaos erupted around me, and I watched coldly as the perfect wedding descended into farce. When my gaze met Xiaoqi's, I could see the pain and apology hidden in his eyes. So what? His pain is nothing compared to a fraction of what I once endured. 16. I watched from a distance as Xiaoqi paced outside the emergency room, feeling not a shred of pity. In my past life, it was under such dire circumstances that he spoke those cold, cruel words, leaving me to bleed out and die. Are my parents okay? We managed to pull them through, but their hearts are weak. They mustn't suffer any more shocks. Thank you, doctor. I watched that agitated figure with a cold gaze and finally let out a sigh. Alright, let's just go. I knew the Xiao family had gone bankrupt due to a failed investment, but I had no intention of telling Mr. and Mrs. Xiao. I didn't want to cause anyone's death like Xiaoqi did in my past life, which is exactly what led to his miserable fate this time around. Consider it all as me accumulating good karma for my own future. Yet, Mr. and Mrs. Xiao still found out about the bankruptcy and passed away on the spot. Xiaoqi's hair turned white overnight, and he had to rely on emergency heart pills to save his life on several occasions. From then on, the Xiao family became a complete laughingstock. Meanwhile, the Liu family, once scorned and treated as a joke after the Xiao family broke off their engagement, rapidly rose to prominence with their anti-aging beauty technology, earning widespread acclaim. The glory I once bestowed upon Xiaoqi has finally returned to me. As for Lin Hanyan, I haven't heard a single thing about her since she left. I have no idea how she's been getting on. 16. Wan, Shinqiu said, holding my hand as we sat on the bench. Who do you think tipped off the Xiao family elders? Countless people held grudges against the Xiao family. Now that they've fallen, plenty are eager to kick them while they're down. That's true. I cast a scornful glance at the small lake ahead. Xiaoqi probably never imagined that Lin Hanyan, the woman who once saved his life, would nearly cost the lives of his entire family. Wan, a voice called out, and both Shinqiu and I turned around at the same time. I saw a man with a weathered face and graying hair slowly approaching me. Wanwan, Xiaoqi, you need to stop bothering her. Xiaoqi flew into a rage, his eyes bloodshot. Who are you? What gives you the right to make decisions for Wanwan? Shinqiu was about to speak when I cut him off. Who is he? Under Shinqiu's gaze, filled with anticipation and longing, I raised his hand and declared, he is my boyfriend. What? Impossible. Wanwan, you like me, you can only like me. Xiaoqi covered his face, sobbing, now I have nothing left, no money, no home, no parents, no wife, no children, I have nothing at all. Seeing him in that near-frenzied state, I quickly grabbed Shinqiu's hand and hurried away. Wanwan, was everything you just said true? What did I say? You, Shinqiu suddenly stopped walking, her eyes brimming with hurt. You just said it a moment ago, and you've already forgotten. No, you can't forget. I couldn't help but laugh. Oh my, whose little boy is about to cry? Shinqiu buried her face in my chest and mumbled pitifully, yours. Alright, my dear, the end. Story 2. I am the girlfriend Axel Jean would trade his life for. Everyone says Axel Jean could live without his life, but not without me. Only I know the truth. While making a grand, passionate marriage proposal to me, on one side, he nearly lost his life drunk driving for a young and delicate girl. I pretended to know nothing, quietly preparing for the wedding, designing the invitations, notify friends and family, just replaced the groom's name with his arch-nemesis. Right when he narrowly escaped death and was pouring his heart out to Joyan, I stood at the hospital room door, took out my phone, and replied to Fin Mu, alright, as you suggested, the wedding will be moved up by a month. Axel Jean has cherished and spoiled me for 10 years. On my 26th birthday, he reserved all the roses in the city, covering every corner of the courtyard. The banquet hall displayed a 7-tier cake he had made with his own hands. On each layer, he had carefully written, Zoe, will you marry me? Surrounded by countless media, he walked through a sea of flowers, knelt on one knee, and gazed at me with deep affection in his eyes. Zoe, will you marry me? I swear, in this lifetime, I will never let you lose. With slightly reddened eyes, I nodded gently. Tears fell from his eyes in a moment of overwhelming emotion, his cool fingertips trembling as he slipped the engagement ring he had designed himself onto my finger. The untimely ring of a phone call interrupted the moment. He turned slightly to answer, his fingers still trembling faintly. That day, he reluctantly and urgently flew to South City. The challenging project that had been troubling him for so long was finally successfully secured by him. However, the other party insisted that the contract must be signed tonight. This flight took him directly to the most luxurious couples restaurant in South City. The girl coquettishly teased him, inadvertently revealing the thin clothing beneath her trench coat. After barely eating a few bites, Axel Jean couldn't wait any longer and carried her to the themed couples suite on the top floor. In the evening, I dragged my somewhat exhausted body to see off the guests from the birthday party. I buried myself in designing the wedding invitations for 2 months. Since I hadn't stayed up late in a long time, when the clock hands pointed past 11, I couldn't help but collapse onto the paper and fall into a deep sleep. I was startled awake by continuous vibrations. Text messages, as if they were free, flooded into my phone like snowflakes, suppressing the drum-like pounding of my heart. I thought something had happened to Axel Jean. What met the eyes were a series of bold and explicit photos, interwoven with the narration of how the two met and fell in love, and, passionate yet shy audio recordings. Axel Jean, on the very day he put the engagement ring on my finger, abandoned me on my birthday, rushing to the other end of the city, tirelessly coaxing his little girl until he was thoroughly satisfied. She was a dazzlingly beautiful 19-year-old girl, young and tender, carrying dreams of stardom in her heart. Axel Jean mentioned it to me more than once. He said he had met a young girl who lived in hardship but strived to grow toward the light, and he intended to support her. How he upheld justice and drove away Joyan's persistent ex-boyfriend for her, and how he took that naive, innocent young girl under his wing, carefully guiding her. Even recently, he asked me with a deep frown. I introduced Joyan to a handsome and wealthy boyfriend, but she absolutely refused to agree. You're both girls, and I want to know, is there any way my friend can win her over? I never thought much of it and even offered advice for his friend. No girl can resist someone who is deeply devoted. Give her everything she wants, spoil her, pamper her, and never let her get hurt. These heartfelt words meant to ease his worries turned into knives stabbing me in the back. Joyan said that if she wanted the stars, Axel Jean would even pluck the moon for her. That headache-inducing, tough project that kept him up at night turned out to be Joyan. All those days Axel Jean lied to me about being on a business trip in the southern city. He was actually pursuing her with relentless effort. Even her perfectly matched ex-boyfriend was forced to break up with her by Axel Jean, who ruthlessly used $1 million check to drive them apart. The very second Joyan agreed to date him, he couldn't contain his excitement and splurged on a private jet, throwing me an excuse I couldn't refuse. He couldn't wait to fly to the southern city, crushing the girl he had longed for into his embrace. He relentlessly and fiercely possessed her. I suppress the pain spreading through my chest, my fingertips trembling as I turn off the recording that shattered both body and soul. The engagement ring on my ring finger glints mockingly under the light. I take it off and hurl it into the trash, letting the tears fall helplessly in large drops. In the end, I still ended up walking the same path as my mother. She warned me, the wise don't fall in love. I didn't listen. Now I reap what I sowed. The phone vibrates. Another unknown number intrudes. The message is brief and clear. I'm Fin Mu. How about considering a different groom? Fin Mu, Axel Jin's arch-rival, over the years. He has always interfered with whatever Axel Jean wanted. My chest still ached unbearably, thinking of Axel Jin's betrayal. I agreed to Fin Mu's request. Fin Mu proposed again. Then let's meet tomorrow evening at Yunding Coffee to talk. Alright. That night, I crossed out Axel Jin's name on the invitation and unfolded a new sheet of paper, tears smudging tiny blossoms of moisture over the groom's name. The next evening, I collapsed at the villa's entrance. It was Fin Mu who took me, covered in blood, to the hospital. That night, the doctor fought tirelessly to snatch me from the grasp of death. Axel Jean set off a night of dazzling fireworks in South City for Joyan. The brilliant fireworks lit up the starry night sky. They also illuminated the two figures passionately kissing in the backseat of the Rolls-Royce. I woke up at noon the next day, stimulant-induced abortion, and diagnosed with aplastic anemia, the doctor said. Under good conditions, I had about 4 to 5 years left to live. I clenched my phone, inside which lay the fresh experience Joyan had brought to Axel Jean under the dazzling fireworks last night. Fin Mu snatched the phone away. It's not worth getting upset over that horny mud, Axel Jean. What you need to do now is focus on recovering and actively cooperate with the treatment. He stood against the light, making it impossible to discern the emotions in his eyes. Being with me is the best revenge against Axel Jean. Axel Jean called me on video chat, anxiously asking why I was in the hospital. I brushed it off by saying I had a cold and fever. He wasn't reassured and insisted on returning to Beijing, even if it meant stalling the rapidly progressing project. Joyan didn't let him have his way, from being unable to stop him from leaving to finally proposing a breakup. She went to the bar alone and publicly invited her ex-boyfriend to reconcile, without even glancing at Axel Jean, who followed behind her with eyes burning red. Axel Jean was already completely drunk when Joyan left with her ex-boyfriend. Ignoring his childhood friend's attempts to stop him, he grabbed the racing car keys his friend had found for him and gave chase. One stomp on the accelerator, and he nearly met the king of hell. Joyan proudly boasted to me about it. Zoe Gu. Your decade-long relationship couldn't withstand my single breakup statement. He was willing to risk his life for me. The moment Axel Jean regained consciousness, his first action was to instruct his assistant to spend whatever it took to keep the incident in Nanjing completely under wraps. Yet I still went to the hospital. I want to see with my own eyes just how passionately he loves Joyan. In the hospital room, Axel Jean, who had narrowly escaped death in the ICU, pulled the girl in front of him into his arms and kissed her domineeringly. After a long while, he finally spoke in a hoarse voice. Joyan, I'll give you everything you want except the title. A villa, money, dreams, jewelry, even children, all can be yours. You'll have what Zoe has, and I'll fulfill what Zoe doesn't have. Through the visitation glass, I gazed into those affectionate eyes, deep enough to drown a person. Take out the phone to reply to Fin Mu. Alright, as you wish. The wedding will be held a month earlier, then turn around. At the same time, take Axel Jin's warning to heart. Little thing, if you dare mention breaking up again, I'll chain you to the bed and punish you until you're crying for mercy. You're not leaving me in this lifetime. The hospital corridor is very long, so long that by the time I reached the exit, the heart that had loved for 10 years was left frozen at the end of the corridor. The phone vibrates, and a photo bursts into view. In the photo, the man smiles at the corners of his lips, gazing at the girl behind the camera. The love in his eyes shines as brilliantly as a galaxy, as if it were that year when they were 16. Thick, billowing smoke, a wrecked race car, the youth with blood-stained cheeks, his eyes brimming with love, like a raging fire that trapped me within. 20-year-old Axel Jean declared domineeringly, Zoe, I've won. In this lifetime, you're destined to be mine. The phone vibrated again. Through the words, I could clearly sense the triumph in Joyan's eyes. You heard what was said in the hospital room. I'll leave you the intangible thing called status, but from now on, his love belongs to me. I coldly lowered my gaze and replied, I find trash that others have used dirty. If you treasure it, then hold on tight and don't let go. Axel Jin's message popped in at an inopportune moment. Wife, I miss you. The place in my heart where you belong has lost the strength to beat after not seeing you for days. Wait for me. There are still some minor issues I need to deal with for a few days. I'll make it up to you properly when I get back. I ignored it. I directly took a screenshot of this message and forwarded it to the so-called troublemaker he mentioned. I didn't go home. Instead, I went straight to Grandpa's place. My grandfather only learned of my existence when I was 16 years old, because my father, while claiming to be an orphan with my mother, brought his secretary back to his hometown and held a wedding banquet. Later, when I was with Axel Jin, my father kept showing up to cause trouble, and somehow my grandfather found out. Grandfather came all the way from the countryside to the city. After hearing the whole story from me, she slapped my father so hard that he signed the dissolution papers. Then, as I wished, she removed me from the family registry. She also made a public statement in the media, declaring that the Gu family had wronged us, mother and daughter, and that I had severed all ties with them, henceforth free from any filial obligations. Finally, the old man slapped my father again, this time even harder, and cut off all father-son relations with him. Afterwards, he tried his best to make up for all the emotional neglect of those years by showering me with affection. Over these years, Axel Jin often accompanied me to visit Grandpa, and Grandpa liked him very much. The aunt who took care of Grandpa had tears welling up in her eyes the moment she saw me. Miss Gu, you've finally come. The old master is fading fast. He kept asking me to hide it from you and President Jin, clutching your photo and secretly crying several times by himself. He's still conscious now. Hurry in and see him. Suppressing the stinging in my eyes, I quickly walked into the bedroom. The elderly man lay on the bed, his mouth emitting labored breaths. Tears streamed down my face as I held his withered hand. The moment he saw me, he suddenly burst into childlike, aggrieved sobs, mumbling incoherently. He cried, my girl is back. Don't cry, my girl isn't sad. He clutched my hand desperately. Call, Axel, I must entrust you to him. Grandpa is worried. His entire body began to convulse with violent coughs. Quick, call, cough cough cough. In a panic, I fumbled for my phone. The call was dialed again and again, only to be hung up each time, over and over. But Axel Jin never answered on the other end. But I received a reply from Joyan instead. Zoe, I'm really sorry. It was a critical moment at that time, and Mr. Jin didn't check who was calling before hanging up. Now he's fallen asleep again from exhaustion, and I can't bear to wake him. I've set my phone to silent, so there's no need to keep trying to call. I'll delete the communication records too. Finally, with his eyes wide open, Grandpa passed away, the photo tightly clutched in his hand drifting alone to the ground. I threw myself onto him, weeping uncontrollably. In this world, there was no longer a single person who truly loved me. Fin Mu arrived the next day and helped me with the funeral arrangements for Grandpa. He even attended the burial as the grandson-in-law. Meanwhile, Joyan kept sending me messages during these days. Sis, guess what? Do you know how wild Mr. Jin and I have been these days? You'd never guess. His favorite is mango-flavored ultra-thin. Last night, he nearly wore me out. He said he wants me to have a baby for him as soon as possible. He even had his assistant send me a bunch of baby clothes, until she sent me photos of those clothes. I angrily dug my nails deep into my palms. Those were the baby clothes I had sewn for the child I lost 3 years ago. Axel Jin and I had a child together. Although he had secretly tampered with things, I still accepted this unexpected little life. During that time, I stitched each piece of baby's intimate clothing with needle and thread, full of anticipation. Later, Axel Jin, due to fatigue driving, accidentally collided with a truck. Both he and I were injured, and we lost the baby. He blamed himself for it for a very, very long time, afraid that I would be heartbroken. He took those little clothes to store at his company. I once saw him holding those tiny garments, weeping uncontrollably. Now, he actually gave them to Joyan. How dare he? Axel Jin came back in the middle of the night, on a flight one later than mine. When his strong, firm arms restrained me, I reflexively rushed to the bathroom to vomit. He followed closely with concern, gently patting my back, unable to hide his surprise as he asked, Zoe, are you pregnant? From the day we set the wedding date, Axel Jin had firmly refused to take any precautions, holding a heart full of eager anticipation. He had no idea how many times he had whispered it to me. He couldn't wait to experience the joy of becoming a father. With reddened eyes, I looked up and met his affectionate, joyful gaze. I nodded gently. Since he loves to daydream so much, let him indulge in his fantasies. Is he worthy of having children with him? Both of his children were killed by his own hands, overwhelmed with excitement. Axel Jean held me and spun around wildly. It wasn't until I struggled free that he finally put me down gently. Zoe, I'll make it the happiest baby in the world. I suppressed the disgust in my heart. The happiest baby, happy enough to compete with his illegitimate child for their father's love and family fortune in the future. He really has the nerve to say that. My chest felt as if stuffed with cotton, unable to swallow or spit it out. Finally, I pretended to feel dizzy and mustered all my strength to throw myself into his arms. Ouch, he gasped in pain, too preoccupied to check his aching chest as he nervously scooped me up and gently laid me on the bed. Then, he opened the drawer and quickly popped a dark plum-flavored candy into my mouth. He thought I was having a hypoglycemic episode and was extremely nervous. I softly exhaled a sigh of relief as he focused intently on checking my complexion. I raised my hand to brush aside the stray hair covering the corner of his eye. There was a distinct scar there now. How did this happen here? Axel Jean turned pale with shock. He managed only a single word before falling completely silent. I lowered my hand in utter disappointment, as if I had lost all interest in a once-cherished treasure. Axel Jean knows that what I love most are his eyes, a pair of peach blossom eyes. When he smiles, they carry a rebellious and roguish charm. But when he looks at someone, they're only tender for me. I often find myself drowning in the whirlpool of affection in his eyes. Every time I'm moved by passion, I love to climb onto him and kiss the slightly upturned corners of his eyes. At this thought, the color drained from Axel Jean's face inch by inch. He panicked and explained, I planned to rush back on your birthday to give you a surprise. I was driving too fast and accidentally rear-ended someone, scraping the corner of my eye. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. Trust me, I'll make this scar disappear forever. He stared at me intently, then finally forced out through gritted teeth, Zoe, you won't stop loving me because of this scar, right? I lowered my eyes and remained silent. He abruptly stood up, pulling out his phone to inquire about a plastic surgeon's number. I watched him fidget like an ant on a hot pan, feeling utterly indifferent inside. If he truly cared so much, how could he have risked his life for another woman? How could he have betrayed our love? And in the very way I despise the most, I casually mentioned the baby clothes I had sewn before. He instantly tensed up like a tightly drawn string, turning his head stiffly, his words stumbling. At the company, I'll bring them back tomorrow. After work, using my recent poor health as an excuse, I insisted on sleeping in separate rooms. He actively sought consultations for scar removal surgery while investing heavily to make Joy a star in the entertainment industry. Within just 1 week, the rising star Joy and trending topics repeatedly claimed the top spot in rankings. Her public persona was consistently that of an innocent and pure jade-like beauty. Prime resources, TV dramas, reality shows, and advertisements all extended olive branches to her. Gossip among insiders. Just which mysterious big shot has the iron fist to spare no expense in elevating a newcomer to such heights in such a short time? This newcomer named Joyan is truly blessed with good fortune. I tossed those little clothes into the brazier. Blessed with good fortune, you say? I actually hope she can climb higher, so she'll fall harder, because I'm not the kind of person who likes to suffer losses. Axel Jean casually mentioned it to me when he got home. The Mu family suddenly stopped their malicious interference with the company a few days ago. From now on, he can focus all his energy on the company's development. Starting next month, he wants to replace all the company's product endorsements with Joyan. He laid it all out, analyzing each point for me. Joyan has a great image and high popularity. The company needs to inject such fresh blood, and I want to give more opportunities to hardworking young people like this. I interrupted what he was about to say next. What if I disagree? Would you change your mind for me? He was momentarily stunned, trying to detect any emotion other than calmness through my expression. I chuckled and pressed further. The mysterious big shot they say is behind Joyan's rise to fame. Could that be you? Axel Jin's expression darkened instantly. It was the first time he'd gotten angry with me. Zoe, why are you like those people, always eager to tarnish her reputation? Joy made it on her own efforts. I am a businessman. I won't waste money building a false reputation for someone. Yes, she made it through her own efforts. She just worked hard to serve you well, and this immense fortune came her way. Looking at his face, dark and cold with anger, I immediately felt wronged, my eyes reddening. Are you angry with me because of her? Since you're so protective of her, why don't I just give her the position of Mrs. Jean? I'll move out tomorrow to make room for her in advance. I stood up, trying to shake off his tightly gripped wrist, only to meet his bloodshot eyes. Axel Jean can't stand hearing me say such harsh words. Then I'll make sure to say them to him. Furious, he laughed bitterly and pulled me into his arms, leaving me no room for resistance. A scorching kiss, mixed with the taste of blood, filled my mouth. That disgusting feeling of repulsion is driving me crazy. It wasn't until he felt the scalding tears that he gasped and pulled me tightly into his arms. Darling, don't be jealous for no reason. She's just a student I pitied and decided to support. I won't allow you to say such things again, or I'll go mad. I broke free from him and said earnestly, you said that as long as I wanted, you could give me the entire company. Now, I only have one request. I don't agree with Joy in being the company's spokesperson. After a long silence, Axel Jean asked in return. Zoe, why? I want to know the reason. I looked at him and said word by word, because I hate her. Is that reason enough? Axel Jean left, his icy warning still echoing in my ears, devoid of any warmth. Zoe, I can indulge you in everything else, but you shouldn't interfere too much with company matters. I've already promised the company's endorsement to Joyanne. I won't let your prejudice make me speak ill of her. Not until the car downstairs started did I dial that frequently contacted number in my call log. Both parties quickly reached a consensus. 4 years ago, Axel Jean's company faced a crisis. I used the trust fund my mother had set aside for me to help him through the crisis. Once everything settled, Axel Jean transferred half of the company's shares to my name. After deciding to leave him, I began quietly selling the shares, but we couldn't agree on a price until today. When I accepted the final offer they proposed, but with one additional condition, I will always vote against any products endorsed by Joyanne's company. I won't allow the company revived with my mother's inheritance to become Joyanne's stepping stone to success. The terms were agreed upon at 9 o'clock, and the contract was signed at 9:15. The other party raced against time, fearing that the deal might fall through due to unforeseen changes. From today onwards, I have completely severed the only remaining tie with Axel Jean. The next day, Joyanne updated a post on her social media, visible only to me. Thank you for the generous gift. He said it perfectly matches my temperament. It was that recently hyped auction item, Eternal Love. It is said to be the final masterpiece of a French jewelry master, created to commemorate his undying love for his late wife. If that jewelry master knew that the piece he made to honor his wife ended up in the hands of a mistress, he might be so furious he'd flip his coffin lid. To let him rest in peace, I simply took a screenshot of that dazzling diamond necklace. I also posted a moment on my social media. What a pity, I missed it. An hour later, that diamond necklace was delivered to me by Axel Jean's assistant. The excuse the assistant gave was, Mr. Jean paid a hefty price to make the other party reluctantly part with it. He truly cares about you. I knew very well that Axel Jean must have promised Joyanne something of equivalent value, but how could I let her have it easy? So, I posted pictures of the expensive suburban villa on my social media again. No additional words were needed. Those who understand will naturally understand. Fortunately, Axel Jean got the hint. The red property deed bearing my name was proudly shared on my social media 3 hours later. The caption read, I really don't need it. But he insisted on giving it to me. Only Joyanne can see this. Joyanne's voice message came 5 minutes later. She was screaming hysterically, what nonsense about the one not being loved being the third party. He just feels guilty toward you. Do you know how much he adores my body? Last night I lost count of how many times I made him happy. You know he bought me. I only replied with one sentence. If I post these voice messages online, do you think you'd be universally condemned and forced to quit the internet? The other party immediately backed down. I roughly calculated the value of the things she just mentioned and then gave her a 50% discount. This should be all the liquid funds she can come up with. Then send her the amount, and tell her that if my mood doesn't improve before dark, these recordings will be in the hands of major media outlets by tomorrow. As it turns out, Joyanne is just as savvy as Axel Jean. Looking at the substantial amount newly added to my phone, marked as a gift, I felt a wave of satisfaction. In high spirits, I went to bed early, just when someone had to come and ruin this rare good mood. I was woken up in the middle of the night by Axel Jean, who had clearly had too much to drink. His breath reeked of alcohol as he showered me with hot, wet kisses. I struggled to break free, but he pinned me down relentlessly. He whispered soothingly, Honey, I'll be very gentle. I won't disturb the baby. Lately, your distance has been making me anxious. He lowered his head and kissed me. All right, that damn familiar feeling of disgust is back again. I grabbed the water glass from the nightstand and smashed it onto his head with a loud clang. No blood, but he passed out. I kicked him off the bed, walked into the bathroom to brush my teeth again, then pulled out a wet wipe and scrubbed my neck furiously until it turned red and stung. Finally, I gave him one last hard kick before climbing into bed to sleep. In the morning, Axel Jean was woken up by me splashing a basin of cold water on him. Before he could say a word, I took the initiative and coldly questioned him. Last night, when you were drunk and holding me, you called out Joyanne's name. Axel Jean, don't tell me again that there's nothing between you two. Let's part ways amicably. He panicked, fighting through dizziness to stop me as I turned to leave. But he tripped over the foot of the bed and fell hard to the ground. Ignoring the pain, Axel Jean grabbed my wrist tightly and roared, Zoe, I swear there's really nothing between me and Joyanne, otherwise, may I die a horrible death. These past few days, we've been discussing plans regarding her endorsement. Plus, I drank a lot yesterday and misspoke in the moment. You can't sentence me to death over one unintentional mistake. It's not fair. I will never let you go. I turned around, my eyes red as I said word by word, Axel Jean, those who betray true hearts must swallow 10,000 needles. I'll only believe you this once. After that day, Axel Jean stayed at home for 2 days being the perfect 247 boyfriend, discussing wedding arrangement details with me. The wedding, originally scheduled for 2 months later, was abruptly moved up by over a month by him, coincidentally clashing with my wedding date. So, I demanded to hold the wedding in the southern city, and he agreed. I insisted on using his most hated flowers at the wedding, and he complied. And all the subsequent unreasonable demands I made, he nodded to each one. He said, as long as I was happy, that was all that mattered. On the third day, Axel Jean was urgently called away by a phone call. I only found out from the trending searches that Joyanne had missed a step on the set and sprained her ankle, and today happened to be the 11th anniversary of my relationship with Axel Jean. Joyanne mockingly sent a provocation, saying she would give me a memorable anniversary unlike any other. She would do everything in her power to keep Axel Jean by her side. I watched her overly confident certainty, decided to take the path of the villain, leaving no road for the villain to walk. Axel Jean, who had spent the entire day with Joyanne, was feeling a bit anxious. Today was his and Zoe's anniversary. Seeing the sky gradually darken, he didn't want to waste any more time at Joyanne's place. But Joyanne clung to him like a needy kitten, her nose red from crying. Gazing at him with such pitiful reluctance, his heart softened, and he kept delaying. Finally, he steeled himself and spoke up, Joy, you should rest well. I have something important to attend to today, but I'll come to accompany you tomorrow. A trace of resentment flashed in Joyanne's eyes as she threw herself into Axel Jean's arms, looking pitiful with tears in her eyes, a sight that tugged at the heartstrings. Just as he was about to soften, Axel Jean's phone vibrated twice. He had a feeling, it must be Zoe. He didn't stop until he opened that image and scrutinized it carefully twice. Only then did he dare confirm that the little temptress in black sexy lingerie, with lips like blazing fire, was Zoe. He slowly adjusted his breathing, his gaze falling on the words, Master, please spoil me. Those 5 short words instantly set his blood boiling. By the time he regained his senses, he had already floored the accelerator, vaguely remembering, it seemed just moments ago. He had forcibly pried open Joyanne's tightly clinging hands. The door lock turned at the expected time, and I suppressed the sneer at the corner of my lips. The next second, I was pinned harshly against the wall by Axel Jean. The vegetables and fruits at my feet were scattered all over the ground. Axel Jean has always been flamboyant. Except for their anniversary every year, he would cancel all his work, cook in person, and every dish was my favorite, then feed me until I'm completely exhausted, leaving me without a single ounce of strength. This time, I didn't resist. Instead, I wrapped my arms around his neck, just like I always did, but just as my lips were about to touch the corner of his eye, I suddenly pushed him away. Sorry, but that scar at the corner of your eye kills any interest I might have had. I know exactly how to hurt him the most. Making only me suffer is too unfair. Axel Jean felt as if a basin of icy water had been poured over his head. The flames that were about to consume him were instantly extinguished. He clenched his jaw tightly, a taste of blood rising in his mouth when he saw the disgust in my eyes. It must have been his imagination. His Zoe would never treat him this way. Not until the sound of the master bedroom door locking echoed did the living room fall so silent that he could almost hear only his own heartbeat. Only then did it dawn on him. Zoe hadn't hugged him on her own initiative in a long time. All because of one more scar. What if she found out about Joyanne's existence? No, in this lifetime, he would never let Zoe know about his affair with Joyanne. He couldn't afford to gamble with that. Axel Jean sat on the balcony all night, surrounded by scattered cigarette butts and empty liquor bottles littering the floor. As dawn broke, he rose wearily and cleaned up the mess. He had promised to make this scar disappear forever. It's just that recently, he's been held up by the matter concerning Joyanne. As long as the scar is removed, he and Zoe can go back to how they were before. With this thought, he seemed to regain his motivation, bending down to pick up the vegetables from the floor and walking into the kitchen. Before long, a table was set with 6 dishes and a soup, all aromatic and appetizing. Axel Jean then quietly walked to the door of the master bedroom. I was startled awake by a knock at the door. As I got up, I felt a dull ache in my lower abdomen and opened the door with a pale face. Go buy me a pack of sanitary pads. We're out at home. I made your favorite dish. Both spoke at the same time. Axel Jean was so shocked that he forgot to respond, and after a long pause, he finally asked in a hoarse voice, "You're not pregnant?" I calmly replied, "My period was late, so I thought I was pregnant." "What? Are you disappointed?" Axel Jean's eyes darkened slightly. Then he gradually relaxed his furrowed brow and comforted me. "Don't be disappointed, we'll have children in the future. You go lie down on the bed, I'll go buy it and be back soon." By the time Axel Jean returned, my pain had already eased, but he still insisted on brewing brown sugar water and made me drink it. Then he repeatedly rubbed his palms warm to heat my abdomen. The phone rang abruptly. He glanced at the caller ID and without hesitation, immediately silenced it. The next second, Joyanne's manager called back again. Axel Jean hesitated for a few seconds before hanging up again, repeating the action over and over. He got up somewhat irritably, told me to rest well, said there was something important at the company that needed handling, then turned to leave. "Wait a minute," I called out to him, pulling out the wedding invitation for me and Finmu from under the pillow. I handed it to him. "Take a look at the design and see if there's anything that needs to be changed." His phone was still vibrating urgently in his palm. Axel Jean gave it a quick glance, muttered a perfunctory "it's fine," and hurried off. If only he had looked a little longer, he would have noticed. The groom's name had long been replaced by that of his sworn enemy, yet his heart was not here. It had already drifted away to Joyanne, as the sound of the door closing echoed. I called for housekeeping to remove every trace of me from this home, tuck that invitation back under the pillow, then, without hesitation, pick up the suitcase and leave. Before boarding the plane to South City, the scandal between Axel Jean and Joyanne had already caused a huge uproar. Axel Jean stormed into Joyanne's dinner party and beat a wealthy businessman, who was trying to take advantage of her, half to death, and he issued a stern warning: anyone who dares to target Joyanne in the future will face the same fate. Then, he shielded the disheveled Joyanne in his arms, picked her up, and quickly left the scene. The entire incident was coincidentally captured by someone with ulterior motives, even though he had silenced everyone present. When he returned to the company and continued using his connections to suppress the wealthy businessman, the footage was still leaked online by someone. Axel Jean was completely panicked. I was just 10 minutes away from boarding when I received Axel Jean's call. He immediately started explaining, "Zoe, those paparazzi are just grasping at straws." I hung up the phone directly and then turned it off. When we arrived in the southern part of the city, I pulled out another phone from my bag. A call came in immediately. A magnetic and pleasant voice came through the receiver. "Axel Jean is frantically searching for you everywhere. I just had someone pass him a message, telling him you're currently setting up the wedding venue in South City. Your father's matter has been wrapped up. He might come looking for you soon, so you'd better be mentally prepared." I nodded in response. "All right, let's not meet for now. I don't want to arouse Axel Jin's suspicion. I'm planning to give him a surprise. As for Gu Jingsheng, hold him off for me first. Once I've finished setting up the wedding venue, I'll have a good catch-up with him." The other party chuckled lightly, exuding a lazy nonchalance. "Zoe, after 11 years of feelings, you wouldn't even give him a decent breakup. Quite ruthless, but I like it. Don't worry, I'll handle Gu Jingsheng for you." After hanging up the phone, I looked at the scene before me. The framework had already been set up according to my instructions. Just need to arrange the details. Actually, I've already given Axel Jean a decent breakup. He just didn't see it. Axel Jean has a phone he's used for 10 years. It was our first anniversary. The first gift I gave him with money I earned from my part-time job. The SIM card inside was personally chosen by me, with the last 4 digits being 1314. He always carried it with him, reluctant to throw it away even when it was unbearably slow, even spending money every year to maintain it carefully, until the last street race, when the phone was completely destroyed. He didn't bother to recover that phone number symbolizing forever, probably afraid his little girl would get jealous, so he never saw the breakup message I sent him today. Axel Jean came after me 2 days later. It took some effort for him to completely suppress this trending topic. The cheater's uniform explanation is nothing but an excuse to cover up the real truth. I interrupted him. Axel Jean, I don't want to hear any more of your excuses. After saying that, I ignored him and continued to focus on arranging the tasks at hand. Now, all that's left is to plant the large empty spaces on both sides of the red carpet with the bellflowers that Axel Jean hates the most, and it's basically done. Finmu truly lives up to being Axel Jean's arch-nemesis. What Axel Jean despises is precisely what he loves. Faced with my indifference, Axel Jean grew somewhat irritated. He blocked my path, his tone laced with anger. Zoe, the fact that you're still meticulously arranging the wedding venue shows you're not planning to let go of this relationship easily. Joy has no one to rely on. If I don't protect her from behind, she'll be devoured by that corrupting environment without a trace left. Can you bear to leave a young girl like her all alone? I slammed the iron shovel in my hand hard onto his foot, causing him to immediately grimace in pain. Of course I can bear it. Did I force her to become a celebrity? Everyone knows it's a big dive at. She was just a penniless, powerless, and backgroundless orphan girl who insisted on jumping into it. If she has that kind of courage, it means she has the ability to protect herself. I paused for a moment, looking into his eyes with a meaningful retort. Isn't that right? Axel Jean irritably rubbed his temples. Zoe, I'm the CEO of the Jean Corporation. What if, during future social engagements, I end up talking a few more words with some woman? Are you going to be unreasonable like this too? I don't always have the patience to coax you like this. I scoffed. Axel Jean, I've never forced anything when it comes to feelings. It's you who refuses to let go. I am officially notifying you now that we're over. Take care, and I won't see you out. Axel Jean left in a huff, feeling as if a stone was lodged in his heart, overwhelmed by an indescribable frustration. He thought about the phone call he had just received. Joy N's endorsement proposal had been completely rejected. Without his knowledge, the company had gained an additional shareholder. Zoe actually went behind his back and secretly sold the shares he had gifted her. How could she be so willful to this extent? He didn't return home. Instead, he was directly called by Jingnan to a private room for drinks. It wasn't until he was nearly drunk that Jingnan patted him on the shoulder, offering some advice with a tone of frustration at his lack of self-improvement. I think you've spoiled Zoe. Someone with your wealth and status always has a few admirers around. As long as things don't get too ugly, most wives would turn a blind eye. She can throw tantrums and threaten to break up with you, yet still personally handle every detail of the wedding arrangements. It's obvious she's got you wrapped around her finger. She's 26 now, not some fresh-faced girl who's easily impressed. If she leaves you, she won't find anyone better. You should let her sweat a little, make her panic for a change. Axel Jean slowly turned the thought over in his mind, evaluating the relationship for the first time with a businessman's eye. Jingnan's words weren't without reason. 11 years of feelings, coupled with the status of Mrs. Jean, aren't something one can simply walk away from. Perhaps he had been too indulgent with Zoe. He took out his phone and sent Zoe a message. Let's both take some time to cool off. When the wedding date approaches, I'll come to pick you up. As long as you wish, the position of Mrs. Jean will always be yours. Fueled by alcohol, he called Joyan over and introduced them one by one. After shyly greeting everyone, Joyan was suddenly pulled into Axel Jin's embrace. A scorching kiss followed immediately. The crowd erupted into wild whistles, making it even livelier than the birthday celebration. Everyone compliments Mr. Jean, saying he's truly blessed, young, and beautiful. The little sister-in-law is much more obedient and sensible compared to Zoe. As the gathering was about to end, Jingnan cornered Joyan in the restroom. The job's done for you. Axel Jean is dead drunk and won't wake up all night. I'll be waiting for you at the usual spot tonight. Joyan frowned and warned, tonight is the last time. If Axel finds out about us, I swear I won't let you off even if I die. Jingnan smirked coldly. What? Trying to burn the bridge after crossing the river? Don't forget, it was you who begged me to connect you with Axel Jean for funding, and it was me who found you a fake boyfriend to provoke that fool Axel Jean. You didn't have this chaste and virtuous act when you were seducing us to satisfy you. He gripped Joy and chin so tightly that she let out a pained groan. You're nothing but a worn-out whore. Who are you trying to play the saint with? He yanked Joyan's hair, forcing her to kneel on the ground, and lightly patted her cheek. You know what to do. Otherwise, I'll let Axel Jean know what kind of person you really are. When Axel Jean sobered up from his hangover, Joy N's eyes were already swollen from crying. She spoke with a thick, nasal voice, full of grievance. You and Sister Zoe are getting married in a week. Right, and also, you gave the endorsement deal you promised me to someone else, brother Axel. Are you tired of me? Looking at the continuous stream of congratulatory messages vibrating on his phone, Axel Jean finally realized. He had previously told Joyanne his phone password and allowed her to check it freely. Looking at her swollen, red eyes and her abandoned appearance made his heart ache slightly. Compared to Zoe, Joyanne seemed to love him more than he had imagined. Heartbroken, he pulled her into his arms and coaxed her gently. I bought you a villa at Golden Moon Bay. I've also transferred an apartment to your name overseas. If you'd like, I can accompany you for a few days abroad to enjoy ourselves. There happens to be an auction there. And whatever you like, I'll buy it for you. She's been with me for 11 years. I'll attend the wedding is scheduled in a week. I'm sorry about the endorsement issue. There were some internal problems at the company. I know you're more understanding than her and wouldn't want to put me in a difficult position. With that said, Joyanne could only nestle in his arms and nod obediently, true to his promise. Axel Jean turned off his phone and spent 3 carefree days with Joyanne, even splurging millions to acquire rare collectibles for her during that time. This time, he made no attempt to conceal anything, deliberately broadcasting their every move back to the country, even making it into trending news. However, he protected Joyanne very well. Those photos only showed angles like being carried sideways into the apartment or a tilted head for a kiss. He needed Zoe to know that she wasn't his only option, and right now, he was her best choice. The Mediterranean PR manager, desperately trying to suppress the trending topic, has been eating and sleeping at the office for 3 full days. Yet it seems someone is pulling strings behind the scenes. As the hype keeps growing higher and higher, even various doubts and speculations have emerged. More frantic than him is Axel Jean's personal assistant. He looked at the wedding invitation in his hand and wanted to bang his head against the wall in frustration. On the day Axel Jean was preparing to return home after being unreachable for 4 days, the call finally went through. Assistant Lynn's voice was frantic with urgency. Mr. Jean, your girlfriend is getting married. And you're not the groom. Axel Jean on the other end of the line frowned and scolded. Lynn, weigh on. It's not April Fool's Day. I advise you not to joke about something like this. Assistant Lynn stomped her foot in frustration. It's true. Miss Gu has made it official. The groom is your arch nemesis, Fin Mu. They got their marriage certificate 2 days ago, right after the rumors about you and Joyanne abroad surfaced. The wedding is tomorrow morning. If you don't believe me, check Miss Gu's social media post yourself. Before Assistant Lynn could say anything more, the call was abruptly ended. Axel Jean's fingers trembled as he swiped. But he couldn't find the chat app no matter how hard he tried. Joyanne beside him whispered an explanation. I accidentally deleted your WeChat that day. All Axel Jean could think about now was, see for yourself in Miss Gu's moments if you don't believe me. He quickly opened the App Store, yet the download speed seemed to crawl at a snail's pace. The moment he finally logged in successfully, the notification sounds exploded in his phone. Until he saw with his own eyes that glaring marriage certificate in Zoe's social media post. She, dressed in a white shirt, smiled at the corners of her lips and leaned close to Fin Mu. The caption reads, to grow old with you in this lifetime. He frantically dialed Zoe's number, but no one answered. A sharp pain shot through his chest, so intense that he clutched his chest and bent over. Joyanne exclaimed in shock as she rushed forward to support him, only to be violently pushed away by Axel Jean. In his fury, he smashed everything within reach to pieces. The thought of Joyanne pestering him to turn off his phone sent his suppressed rage boiling over. He slapped Joyanne hard across the face. Joyanne, you damn bitch. Joyanne grabbed his sleeve and sobbed, explaining, Brother Axel, I really didn't mean to. I'm just pregnant and wanted you to spend some quality time with me and the baby before we get married. It's all my fault. Please don't be mad at me, okay? With that, she fell to her knees, crying until she lost her voice. A flicker of regret passed through Axel Jean's heart as he struggled to suppress the violent urge to tear her apart. Instead, he gently carried Joyanne to the bed and softly comforted her. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have taken my anger out on you. Take good care of yourself during the pregnancy, and I'll make it up to you and the child in the future. I must return to the country immediately. Zoe's marriage certificate is definitely fake. She must have done it to spite me. Joyanne insisted on taking the earliest flight back home with Axel Jean, but the moment the plane landed, she regretted it. The airport perimeter was swarmed with reporters, who immediately surrounded them as soon as they appeared. A glint of calculation flashed in Joyanne's eyes as she darted behind Axel Jean like a startled fawn, but before they could take 2 steps, venomous curses could be heard mixed within the crowd. The next moment, she was shoved hard to the ground. followed by a heavy weight on top of her as slaps rained down on her face like they were free. Her lower abdomen ached dully from the pressure, and a rush of warmth escaped her body, causing her to scream in terror, "Baby, Axel, save our baby." Axel Jean, who had already shielded Joyen, was slapped hard by an unknown woman, leaving several bloody scratches on his face. The woman's face flushed red with rage as she cursed furiously. "It's all because of you filthy men protecting her that she dares to seduce married men without restraint. My daughter had a miscarriage because of those provocative messages she sent. Even the lowest gutter rat can become a celebrity these days." With that, she pulled out a thick stack of photocopied papers from her bag. "It's the evidence that Joyen, at 16, seduced her adoptive father and was kicked out by her adoptive mother. Later mingling with some wealthy people, with a flick of her hand, she forcefully tossed the papers into the air. Today, I'll let everyone know exactly what kind of person you are." The camera flashes relentlessly targeted Joyen. I looked at the live camera and smiled casually. Didn't she want to make a comeback? I set up the stage for her and even handed her the script. This time, she should understand. What's stolen must eventually be returned. By the time Axel Jean arrived in the southern city, Fin Mu and I had already recited our vows and exchanged rings. His eyes bloodshot with rage, he charged at Fin Mu and swung his fist. "You bastard, how dare you take advantage of someone in distress?" Fin Mu licked the corner of his mouth and struck back fiercely. "Not as much of a bastard as you. If you hadn't thrown those thumbtacks at the turn back then, you wouldn't have beaten me. If you can't cherish what you have, don't blame others for stealing from you." I stepped forward and pulled the two fighting men apart, then slapped Axel Jean hard across the face, pulled Fin Mu behind me and said coldly, "Today is my big day. If you want to go crazy, get lost somewhere else." I turned to check Fin Mu's injury, but he caught my hand and gave it a light peck. "Darling, if you blow on it for your husband, it won't hurt anymore." Axel Jean listened with heart-wrenching grief, his eyes bloodshot, gnashing his teeth as he spat. "Fin Mu, you're fucking asking for death." He rushed forward, raising his fists to strike. I lifted my hand and slapped him, leaving him stunned in place. "You know damn well what you've done. You knew exactly what I hate the most, yet you still did it. Axel Jean, you made me believe in love, only to let me lose completely. All these days, I've been perfunctorily pretending everything's fine with you while preparing for a wedding with another man. I just wanted you to taste the bitterness of being deceived too." Axel Jean's face turned pale, drained of color, as he tried to speak in his defense, only to find his throat painfully tight. His Zoe had truly married someone else, and it was he who had pushed her into it with his own hands. His heart felt as if it had been brutally hollowed out. A metallic taste surged up his throat, and Axel Jean spat out a mouthful of blood before collapsing straight backward. The farce finally came to an end. After seeing off the guests, I was faced with the person I least wanted to see in my life. That man, the one who shamelessly lived off others while cheating with his secretary, who repeatedly lied to my mother, secretly switched her medication, and was ultimately responsible for her death. He knelt before me, weeping and begging for forgiveness. Before, when he was about to send me to the old pervert's bed, he was so arrogant, he slapped himself hard, cursing the secretary who had cuckolded him. Not only did she secretly give him a sterilizing drug, but she also made him raise another man's son for over a decade. Now, he sincerely admits his mistakes and wants to reclaim me as his only bloodline. He said he's getting old and hopes I can return to inherit his company, but his wishful thinking is about to be dashed. He's destined to have no descendants in this lifetime, because I have a terminal illness and will soon die. I looked at the man before me, his hair now streaked with white, bitterly repenting, and slowly nodded as I took over everything in the company. Then, before he could divorce his secretary, I set a trap, forcing him and that woman to bear the burden of massive loan shark debts, fleeing and hiding, living a life of constant displacement. Years ago, the evidence of their conspiracy to commit intentional murder was also submitted to the court. I stood before my mother's gravestone, gently caressing the face etched with longing on its surface. "Daughter has avenged you. I'll come to join you in a few days." A weight settled on my shoulders as Fin Mu draped a coat over me. "Let's go back. The mountain wind is strong. You need to take care of your health. It'd be best if you could act alongside me for many more years. I've scheduled an appointment with a foreign expert to discuss conservative treatment options. I'm leaving tomorrow." Axel Jean wasn't wrong. The wedding photo was photoshopped by Fin Mu, who paid someone to do it. This wedding between us was a matter of mutual benefit. He used the evidence in his hands to avenge his mother, while I shielded him from an arranged marriage by his family. He might have done all this just to annoy Axel Jean, yet I'm still very grateful to him. That's why I insisted on not getting legally married, only having a wedding ceremony. As someone who's about to die, I didn't want to burden him with becoming a divorcee. I never thought it would end up implicating him. On the way back, Joyan was driving a large truck, speeding straight toward Finmu's car. The car was pushed so hard that sparks flew from the friction along the way. In the last second before losing consciousness, I felt someone tightly shielding me beneath them. I feel guilty, but more than that, I feel relieved. There is nothing left in this world that makes me want to stay. All I ask is that Finmu remains unharmed. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but I heard faint voices talking nearby. She could have lived for 4 to 5 years. Unfortunately, she recently had a miscarriage due to stimulation, and now this car accident. It's already a miracle she survived. If she wakes up, every day she lives might be her last. The hands holding mine tightened slightly as these words were spoken. That was the first time I heard such a cry, so heart-wrenching, so helpless and desperate. Turns out, those who betray true hearts really do swallow 10,000 needles. I felt my eyelids grow heavy, my body exhausted, and gradually drifted into unconsciousness. Every day after that, I occasionally regained some consciousness, until one day, that lazy voice sounded again. Zoe Goo, it's been a month already. Even I, your savior, have almost fully recovered. If you don't wake up soon, I'll be forced by my adoptive parents to divorce and marry that big-headed, wealthy woman with peculiar tastes. I instantly felt relieved in my heart. As long as he was okay, that was all that mattered. I struggled to open my eyes, and the moment my vision cleared, the sunlight refracted through the window made tears stream down my face. A figure blocked the sunlight, and a soft tissue pressed against my cheek, gently wiping away my fallen tears. Gradually, doctors and nurses began pouring in continuously, with sunken cheeks and bloodshot eyes. Axel Jean was stopped outside the door by bodyguards. He called my name with intense emotion. Zoe, I just found out Grandpa passed away. If I had known it was you calling that day, I would never have hung up. I caused the death of our child. I deserve to die. He slapped himself violently until blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Zoe, look at me, please. I'll do anything you want as long as you forgive me. He wanted to rush in, to see properly the girl he had once cherished above all else, yet no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free from the bodyguard's grip. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I caught a glimpse of Axel Jean hiding in the corner, dejected and forlorn. I heard he sold the company and donated a temple in my name, praying for my long life. Finmu snorted coldly, blocking the view as his warm palm enveloped my hand. He shielded my head as I got into the car. After that, I liquidated all my assets as quickly as possible and distributed the proceeds to orphanages and impoverished mountain regions. The largest portion was donated to the orphanage my mother often took me to as a child, a place filled with many beautiful memories of her and me. Every day I would go back and forth there to volunteer, just like my mother did when I was a child. I would style their hair in various ways and coax them into taking baths and changing into fresh clothes. Occasionally, I would stay overnight, snuggling with them to watch cartoons or telling them fairy tales. When they saw the pizza in the cartoons and their faces lit up with longing, I organized a mutual aid activity. Each reward is the delicious food they desire. Occasionally, I too feel a profound sense of helplessness. When some children ask me why their parents don't want them, when those infants in swaddling clothes cry incessantly, as if aware they've been abandoned, I don't know how to comfort them. Perhaps they will understand when they grow up. They only have one set of parents in their lifetime, yet their parents can have many children. They were not their parents' only ones, so they could be beaten, abandoned, left to die, or left to live as they pleased. Later, they liked to gather around me and affectionately call me Mommy Goo. This was after receiving my response. Each one of them was as happy as a chirping little lark. Before long, I had a caregiver by my side, the same young girl who had taken care of me in the hospital before. My health is so poor that I already need someone to take care of me by my side. Watching the heartwarming scenes at the orphanage, she sometimes secretly wipes away tears. Sometimes she would curse Axel Jean and Joyan under her breath. Other times, she would make me laugh. She couldn't help but exaggerate in her narration. Do you know how handsome President Mu is? He grabbed that scumbag Jean by the collar and, bam, knocked him out with one punch. President Mu was so angry he nearly jumped 2 feet in the air, shouting, I haven't even finished beating you up, and you're already out cold. I thought to myself, after days without food or water, of course he'd pass out. As if realizing she'd said something she shouldn't have, her voice abruptly cut off. I smiled and took her hand. At that time, Axel Jean was your employer. You even took pleasure in your employer's misfortune. The little girl scratched her head sheepishly. the footprint on his face was from me. I originally meant to kick him in the chest, but I missed and hit his face instead. I burst out laughing. Later on, Finmu appeared by my side, accompanying me as I said goodbye to the children and insisting that I undergo treatment. I looked into their tearful, reluctant eyes. Feeling a pang of sorrow in my heart, little Cloud threw herself into my arms, clinging tightly and refusing to let go. Auntie Goo, are you leaving us too? You promised to celebrate Children's Day with us and watch us grow up together. I don't want you to go. Her chest heaved with sobs, and soon more children's cries followed. Only then did I realize I was wrong. I shouldn't have given them hope only to make them sad and disappointed, especially little Cloud. I had shown the most care for this poor, troubled girl. It was supposed to be a farewell, but it turned into a scene where both adults and children couldn't stop crying. The staff in the courtyard hurriedly tried to comfort them. Finmu held the boy beside him in his arms, gently wiping the tears from his cheeks, and promised, as long as you all behave and stop crying, on Children's Day, I'll bring your mommy Goo to watch your performance. You care the most about Mom Goo, surely you wouldn't want her to keep crying with you. Gradually, the sobbing turned into quiet sniffles. Those sorrowful eyes once again filled with hope. I looked gratefully at Finmu. The days that followed showed very poor results from the treatment. On Children's Day, I insisted on receiving 2 extra tubes of nutrient injections. Finmu pushed me in the wheelchair, fearing the children might cry again. I had instructed the director in advance to tell them I had sprained my foot. At the end of life, I saw the most beautiful flowers in the world. They were abandoned in a corner, yet bloomed in my eyes weakly and slowly closed. I seemed to see my mother before her passing. The guilt in her eyes was as thick as morning mist that wouldn't disperse. She said, "Sweetheart, don't cry. Promise Mommy you'll live well. Mommy wants you to grow up happy and joyful." At this moment, these words I also dedicate to those children bound by fate. I sincerely hope that they may grow up safely, happy and joyful. Alas, I can no longer see them, like larks, fluttering towards me. Finmu put a finger to his lips, making a shushing gesture at them. He whispered to them, "Auntie Goo is tired, be good and don't wake her up." He turned and called his assistant over to distribute gifts to each child. Amid the children's delighted giggles, he pushed the wheelchair and turned to leave. Tears fell upon my gradually chilling body, 1 drop, 2 drops, in an unending stream. "Zoe, do you know, once, I was also an orphan in this orphanage. You gave me candy, saying I was as pure as a blank sheet of paper. You said I was the most beautiful person you'd ever seen. When we grow up, you'll marry me and be my bride. But you've forgotten all of it. Only I remember now." The wind scattered his murmurs, but could not blow away his tears. He carried Zoe's body into the car, holding her tightly in his arms. Ah, a heart-wrenching roar of grief echoed through heaven and earth. It drowned out the small figure chasing desperately behind the car. The tiny figure ran while crying, "Auntie Goo, please don't abandon me. I'll be good and listen to you. I'll be your most beloved little Cloud. Mom, look at me. I'm your little Cloud." She ran with all her might, certain that her beloved Mama Goo would see her. At the very moment the car turned and disappeared from sight, she fell hard to the ground. Her lips were scraped and bleeding, yet she still stretched out her little hand forward, until everything around her returned to silence. Only the disconnected teardrops of little Cloud fell to the ground, drip, drip, stirring up dust. "Mom, you don't want little Cloud either, do you?" Axel Jean sped the car to its limit. After seeing the cold, lifeless me, he swallowed hard, forcing back the hot surge rising in his throat. Finmu's fist, fueled by rage, struck Axel Jean with brutal force. Axel Jean seemed as if his soul had been drained, his crimson eyes shedding large, rolling tears, even with his eyes swollen from the beating, blood spilling from his mouth, and fingernails torn off. None of it compared to the agony in his heart from losing Zoe. He knelt before the coffin, struggling to keep one eye open, and repeatedly banged his head heavily against the ground. He kept banging his forehead until it was a bloody mess, continuing until he lost consciousness. 3 days later, a coffin appeared beside Zoe Goo. Finmu passed away peacefully, a faint smile on his lips. He never told Zoe that the marriage certificate was real. She had promised to be his wife. How could he ever let her go so easily? Before his death, he entrusted the children from the orphanage to Axel Jean. "Tell him, this is Zoe's final wish." Axel Jean, who intended to let Joyen bleed to death before ending his own life, threw the despised Joyen onto the smuggling ship in disgust. He is destined to live a life of guilt. Joyen, like a broken bellows, made hoarse, broken sounds with his severed tongue. Her originally fair and smooth fingers were now bent at an eerie angle, With terror in her eyes, she looked at the disheveled men closing in on her with lecherous grins, tears falling in despair. The end. Axel Jean's side story. Axel Jean volunteered at the orphanage and mustered the courage to return to the home that no longer carried Zoe's presence. He clutched a phone in his hand, identical to the one he had used for the past 10 years. With trembling hands, he inserted the SIM card that symbolized a lifetime commitment into the slot. The phone vibrated continuously, revealing a number once so familiar it was etched into his bones. He opened the text message, read Zoe's self-narration, and tears streamed down uncontrollably. The first year I met Axel Jean, to make me agree to be his girlfriend, he risked his life to win that race. That year, the love in his eyes nearly overwhelmed me. The second year of dating Axel Jean, during a trip, we were caught in an avalanche and trapped together. When we were rescued, his body was stiff. He had wrapped all the warm winter clothes around me, who was unconscious. The third year of our relationship, Axel Jean learned to cook. His hands burned red, yet he smiled with satisfaction. That year, his nutritious meals slowly helped me gain a little weight. The fourth year, he knew I wanted to enshrine guanine for my mother, so he secretly stayed up late in the study for many nights, embroidering a portrait of guanine for me. The fifth year, the company was on track, and he declined all sorts of unnecessary social engagements, never giving me any cause for concern. That year, he gave me countless gifts. The sixth year, the company faced a crisis, and I helped him through it. He transferred half of the shares to my name, saying he had also saved a generous dowry for me and would give me everything I desired. The seventh year, a sudden car accident occurred, and he shielded me with his body. When the ambulance arrived, he pleaded in a daze, "Save her first. Without her, I won't live either." The eighth year, he proposed to me, and I turned him down. I told him that if he could love me as devotedly for 10 years as he did at the beginning, I would nod in agreement. He wasn't angry. Instead, he became even more doting on me. The ninth year, Axel Jean fell into a trap at the banquet. He fiercely pushed away the seductive beauty clinging to him, cut his palm so deeply the bone was visible, and stubbornly held on until the moment he saw me. The 10th year, on our 10th anniversary of love, he got drunk, his heart and eyes filled with nothing but me. He said, "Zoe, I'll never let you lose in this lifetime. I've made a will. If I die, all my assets will go to you, ensuring you a worry-free life." In the 11th year, he fell in love with a young and delicate girl, just as he had loved me back then, giving her everything she desired, even willing to risk his life for her. So, I'd decided to marry someone else. Let's part on good terms and never meet again. A decade of devotion ends. Axel Jean curled up on the floor, his heart aching so badly he could barely breathe. He had lost the girl he loved most. The kind of loss that could never be undone. Finmu's side story. I was supposed to die when I was 9 years old. It was that meddlesome little girl, clinging tightly to my arm, crying and pleading with me, her face streaked with tears and snot. "It hurts, big brother, don't cut it, it hurts." Furious, I roared at her, shouting for her to get away. She cried even harder, but refused to let go. From that day on, I had a clingy little shadow by my side. She always managed to find me hiding in the corners, stuffing a handful of chocolate candies into my hand, and she'd always add with a compliment, "Brother, you're so pretty." Every time, I would throw those chocolate candies into the trash with disgust. She thought everyone, like her, enjoyed being praised for their beauty. She was a princess who grew up being pampered, with parents who adored her. How could she possibly understand the suffering endured by us, the rats in the gutter? In her eyes, I was nothing more than a pitiful creature she occasionally took pity on. When the director reached out his sinister hand towards me again, I struggled desperately to break free and escape, accidentally bumping into her as she was searching everywhere for me. Without a second thought, I grabbed her hand and ran as fast as I could, desperate to escape that prison. It was the first time I confided in someone, even though she didn't fully understand. Yet she still stretched out her little hand to wipe the tears from my face, comforting me. "Brother isn't dirty. Brother is as clean as white paper. Nanan's dress got dirty, but mommy said it'll be clean after washing. I love brother the most. Brother is so beautiful. When I grow up, I want to marry brother and be his bride." When her beautiful and gentle mother found us, little Zoe was still tearfully comforting me. "Brother isn't dirty. Brother isn't dirty." When I looked at the director with eyes full of hatred, that gentle aunt took our hands, her voice soft and soothing. "Come on, I made hot dogs for you. If you run too slow, you won't get any." 2 days later, the director was taken away in a police car, and a kind, amiable aunt became the new director. Zoe and Mom Moo became the light that cleansed my soul. I began to top the class time and again, just to see Mom Moo smile. And little Zoe's adoring words, "Brother is amazing." I no longer threw away the chocolate beans, but instead split them in half to share with the giggling Zoe until they were all gone. Those happy times lasted until I was 11 years old. After that, Mother Moo and Zoe never came again. They abandoned me. The eager anticipation that filled my heart and eyes turned into hatred with each passing day of waiting. I threw Mom Moo's reward and everything Zoe gave me into the trash. Until one day, a couple wanted to adopt me, but I refused. As they got into the car to leave, I overheard the murmurs around me. When the name of that neighborhood, which I had memorized countless times, was mentioned, I chased desperately after the starting car. They live in the same neighborhood as Zoe. I must find them and ask clearly, why. I got up from my fall, ignoring my bleeding knees, and chased with all my might. Then, I moved into a villa that looked like a castle, but Aunt Moo passed away. And Zoe disappeared without a trace. They didn't abandon me. One day, I will find Zoe. My adopted parents treated me like their own child, carefully grooming me as their heir. The next year, they were pleasantly surprised to find out they were expecting a baby brother. They were very grateful to me, saying it was because I was destined to have siblings, and they treated me even better. When I was 17, our family moved to a new house. The neighbors in the villa across the street always scolded and hit their child, until one day the girl was locked out on the balcony in the freezing winter. I saw Zoe, a 15-year-old girl covered in bruises, clad in thin clothes. She was curled up in a corner of the balcony, clutching a kitten tightly to her chest like a discarded puppet. I thought of those sharp, vicious curses. She must have suffered a great deal. I watched as she spoke through tears to the kitten cradled in her arms. Then she walked to the balcony and carefully dropped the kitten onto the lawn below. The moment the kitten landed safely, a smile curled at her lips, yet it stabbed at my heart with pain. I warmed 2 bottles of milk and tossed them, along with the quilt from the bed and some soft packaged bread, onto the opposite balcony below. I hid myself, not letting her see me. The once dazzling princess surely wouldn't want me to witness her current miserable state. I quietly went downstairs and sneaked the kitten Zoe had released into my home. I gave up the opportunity to study abroad and fed Zoe for less than 2 years. When that bastard half-brother bullied her, I used a slingshot to pelt him until he howled in pain. I hid in the underground garage and scared her wicked stepmother with a toy snake, causing her to break her leg. I also punctured her father's car tires several times. When Zoe was 16, I found out her beastly father was going to sell her to some old pervert. I begged my foster father to intervene, but unexpectedly, Axel Jean ended up interfering by chance. Axel Jean began to pursue Zoe obsessively. I had to step in and cause trouble, but Zoe didn't recognize me. Axel Jean got annoyed by the disturbance, proposed a race to decide the winner, with the loser stepping aside. I lost that race. Then I watched helplessly as they were happy together for 10 years. For 10 years. I accompanied Zoe's cat through its entire life. For 10 years, I have been leveraging my connections to uncover the truth behind Aunt Moo's death. Meanwhile, I watched Zoe gradually become more cheerful and happy. Yet, whenever I thought of Axel Jin's smug demeanor, I couldn't resist making things difficult for him. During this time, I also worked to undermine the business of Zoe's father, while he kept disturbing the happiness Zoe had just gained. I went to his hometown and told the truth to his upright, revolutionary grandfather. When he tried to embezzle the trust fund Aunt Moo left for Zoe, I used some means to deliver it into Zoe's hands. After Zoe chose to withdraw the fund to help Axel Jin's company through the crisis, I secretly gave Axel Jean a helping hand behind the scenes. In the 7th year with Axel Jean, she became pregnant but quietly lost the baby. I watched as she hid under the hospital blanket, silently crying. My heart aches. And I really want to hug her. Later, she accepted Axel Jin's marriage proposal. I sincerely wish that in this lifetime, it's enough for me to see her happy forever. I kept a close eye on Axel Jean until I realized he had lost his mind. After discovering that Zoe knew the truth, I edited the conditions and sent her a marriage proposal. She agreed. That night, it seemed as if the entire sky was lit up with stars. The next day, I held her blood-soaked body in my arms and prayed to the heavens. I would give my life to ensure her peace and health in the years to come, yet heaven turned a deaf ear. She was diagnosed with a miscarriage and a terminal illness. At that moment, I could have killed that bastard Axel Jean. While she was sound asleep, I took the car keys. Venting my frustration, I returned home and turned the place into a wreck. But when I think about it, 4 or 5 years of being able to accompany her was enough. When I proposed getting our marriage license, she politely declined. She said she had a terminal illness and didn't have long to live. She said she didn't want to hold me back and asked me to find someone to Photoshop a wedding photo. At that moment, My world turned dark and bleak. I restrained my emotions, casually agreed to her request, and in the end, deceived her. I had my dream wedding with her, exchanged vows, and swapped rings. From that moment on, she became my wife, through sickness and health. For better or worse, I looked at Axel Jin's face full of regret. But his real remorse was yet to come. Zoe and I still have 5 years together, and during this time, I'll block him from appearing in our lives at all. I never imagined Joyanne could be so utterly depraved. I wish I could tear her limb from limb. I sent people to block Joyanne, who was hiding everywhere, and personally cut out her tongue and broke her fingers. Then I leaked Joyanne's hiding place to Axel Jin. The evil he has wrought, he must reap. I began using inhuman methods to discipline my unrelated younger brother. I told my adoptive parents about my plans. Mother fainted from crying several times, and father also became angry. In front of Zoe, I portrayed them as the cruel parents forcing me into an arranged marriage. My adoptive parents played their roles perfectly in this act, but in reality, they were the second ray of light in my life. I kowtowed to them 3 times with deep reverence. The debts of this life can only be repaid in the next. When Zoe left, there was a relieved smile on her lips, yet my heart was shattered with unbearable pain. Once again, she abandoned me. I adopted little Yunduo from the orphanage, along with a quiet and well-behaved boy. I named them Moonyanan and Moonyansheng. I arranged everything for them, a house, schools, a butler, maids, and entrusted the money to their adoptive parents for safekeeping. Then, in Zoe's name, I entrusted the orphanage to Axel Jin. The guilty do not deserve easy redemption. He wanted to join Zoe underground to atone for his sins. I won't allow it. Besides, a love between 3 is too crowded. Zoe only needs me. All has been settled. I swallowed the sleeping pills I had prepared in advance, placed the photo with Zoe and Aunt Moo against my heart. That year, I tearfully retrieved this photo from the trash bin, wiped it clean, pressed it flat. They don't want me, then I'll take them instead. Zoe will never know in this lifetime that I loved her. It's okay, I'll see her soon. I told her with my own words, Zoe, I love you, until the end of my life, still love you.